Hey, my name's Izzy, this is Rolling Mooch Cards, coming at you with another top 20 commander list. This time, going up one CMC, let's talk about one-drops. One-drops are a core part of commander, really pushing that, what do I do on my first turn? Zero-drops had their place, they did their things, some of them weren't technically zero-drops, but this time, most of these are gonna be one-drops. Let's start at number 20 with Mystical Tutor. This is one blue. Also, we're going to have much more color in this deck. One blue for an instant. Search your library for an instant or sorcery card, reveal it, then shuffle and put that card on top. This card's great. You play it at your opponent's end step just to put that instant sorcery you need in your deck right up top. It's a tutor. Tutors are good. This helps you find that piece that you really need of the puzzle or toolbox, right? Those are your two options with tutors. Either your toolbox in your deck, or you're actively trying to find a combo, right? Either you need this card because it combos with your commander and that's how you win, and that's what competitive's doing, right? Higher power. Lower power, Mystical Tutor is great to go, man, I don't really have a wheel in my hand, and my commander likes wheels, or I need wheel because I don't really have a lot of cards in my hand. Let's Mystical Tutor to grab a card to refill my hand. Mystical Tutor for Wheel of Fortune, either that turn or next turn, and now you're back in the game. Cool. There's a lot you can do with Mystical Tutor. And that's just why it's kind of there. It does a lot, but not enough to really push it above. Number 20. Let's get to number 19. Vandal Blast. I love this. Again, this is one of those that's technically a one-drop. So for Vandal Blast is 1 red for a sorcery. Destroy target artifact you don't control. Cool, fine. A nice little thing. Pop that artifact that's problematic over there. You played Soul Ring turn 1. Guess what? Vandal Blast that Soul Ring turn 1. Pity play here, guys. That's what we're here for. Always destroy their Soul Ring. Don't bring Soul Ring to the table and play it turn 1. Hold that shit for turn 2. On the other hand, you're actually running Vandal Blast for Overload. Overload is an ability that says 4 in red, you may cast this spell for its overload cost. If you do, change target and its text to each. So instead it reads, destroy each artifact you don't control. Don't care if you're running an artifact deck, this is just a great way to wipe your opponent's artifacts off the face of the earth. And honestly, a must play. I know it's number 19, but if you're in red, just put this in your deck. The amount of times that this just pushes you so far and above your opponents because so many people use rocks to get ahead in mana is insane. There's all your rocks. They're gone. Adios. I don't know any other way to say goodbye. Ciao. Maybe. I think that's, I don't know. But yeah, that's just that's what Vandal Blast does. It just says, oh, you're relying on artifacts? Get out of here. Goodbye. Screws over the artifact deck and hits any deck that's not green. Very useful, highly underrated card. But I mean, it is 19. Number 18, we got Enlightened Tutored for 1 white. It's another tutor. Instant. Search your library for an artifact or enchantment card, reveal it, then shuffle and put that card on top. This card used to be a CDH staple, specifically just to quick your mana crypt. This is just a mana crypt fighter. Mana crypt's no longer legal. So what does this do now? It finds Lion's Eye Diamond, so you can win the game. Or get your commander out faster, because you want your commander out. It's very useful to grab a lot of those zero drops that I talked about last episode, because a lot of them are engine pieces. Or combo pieces. And that's what this card's great at, grabbing combo pieces. But, casually, just go grab your Soul Ring. Yeah, I'm just going to cast this on your end step and get a turn 2 Soul Ring. Cool. That doesn't bother me. Sounds good. Otherwise, it can do a lot of other stuff. It can go grab you Rhystic Study. That's another thing this card does. Grabs your Rhystic Study. Yeah. Okay, cool. That's probably the best thing to tutor for it. But there's a lot of stuff you can tutor for it. In artifact or in equipment decks, and grab you any equipment. in aura decks, and grab you any aura. There's very few things that you don't want with this, or that you're missing. I mean, yeah, you can't grab a creature, and that's a bummer. But like most of the time, you don't really need an instant sorcery. So I think Enlightened Tutor's great, fantastic number 18. Going on to number 17, Swan Song, 1-drop counter spell. What can we say? People love counter spells, especially ones that are 1 mana. Instant, counter target enchantment, instant, or sorcery spell. Its controller creates a 2/2 blue bird creature token with flying. Okay, so this card does 2 things. Okay, it either protects you from other counter spells, which is good, that lets you go off. Just add 1 mana to your pool of like how much it costs you to win the game with your combo. Or it stops them from winning if they have an enchantment. This is the golden standard of use Swan Song to counter their tutor. Normally it's better to counter the card they find, but Swan Song probably can't counter that unless you know they're going for an enchantment to win the game. Or an instant or sorcery to win the game. But for the most part, yeah, like this is a fantastic card under that regard. A 1-drop counterspell is always nice. I don't run this casually. Not because I'm against 1-drop counterspells casual, but because it doesn't hit everything. It's too narrow for me. I'm not like threatened by enough counterspell wars to really care about the countering of instant sorceries. Maybe, okay, casually the good thing about this is it's a way to protect your commander from removal. And that's not bad. If you're in blue running Swan Song, like it's like protection of your commander with upside. Oh, I can stop my opponent from winning, or I can stop myself from losing. But mainly I would run Swan Song just to go, oh, you're gonna try to destroy my commander. I've got 1 blue mana open, tap that mana, save my commander. Oh, you're board wiping while I'm in my head, let's stop that. So that's where Swan Song comes in, and that is our number 17. I think. I'm so bad at this, guys. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shit. 20, 19, 18, yeah, 17. Okay, 16 is Faithless Looting. Okay, look. I used to love this card. I'm glad that it's back in Modern. I used to love this card. Oh man, I used to love this card. Faithless Looting is a red for a sorcery. Draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Flashback 2 and a red. You can cast this card from your graveyard for its flashback cost, then exile. This is such good digging, right? You got a bad opening hand with Faithless Looting, man, at least you can draw 2 more cards and get rid of the bad cards in your hand. A 7-card hand with Faithless Looting makes you go, well, I mean, land, turn 1 Faithless Looting, dig 2, there's my land, and there's my ramp piece. Let's get rid of these 2 7-drops that I don't need in my hand. Cool. Play a land. Next turn, ramp piece. Next turn, draw. Oh, I don't have my land. Faithless Looting. Let's go find that land I need. Like, there's a lot of upside to this. Downside, it's not actually drawing you cards. It's a 3 for 2. Because you do have to pay Faithless Looting. So you do lose it. The flashback is a 2 for 2. Okay? But Faithless Looting, if you have 7 cards in hand, you have to use Faithless Looting. So you go down to 6, right? So 7, down to 6 for playing Faithless Looting. Draw 2 cards, bringing you up to 8. So now you can choose between the 8 cards of what you want to keep. Discard 2, down to 6. So you actually lose a card for doing this. But card selection is very useful in Commander. And maybe I need to go back to the drawing board and test it out. It's got its spot for a reason. I think it's very useful. I think in decks that really want you to use, that like to be able to like use your graveyard, this card has a lot more space in it. And that's what it's used for in most other formats. It's just filling your graveyard up. So that's why it's number 16. Coming up next, number 15 is Elvish Mystic. You're going to see a lot of these. Elvish Mystic is a green for a 1/1 creature elf druid. Tap, add a green. Okay? Now there's a lot of 1-drop creature ramps. why is this guy at number 15? What gives it the right to be 15? I'll tell you what. It's an elf. So not only is it ramp, it's also an elf. And elves are one of the top 5 tribes that people play. And it means there's more decks that play it, okay? It can also be played in mono green decks. So any of those ramp creatures that tap for different colors, although they're better in non-mono green decks, they can't be played in any of the mono green decks. So when looking at why is this ramp spell at number 15 and not a better one, it's because all the mono green decks run this card as ramp, and all the like 2 color cards run this card as ramp, and all the elf decks run this card. And it's a druid, so like druid decks run it, but like that's like 5 decks. So yeah, I mean, what's more to say? It's a monodork. Monodorks are good. Don't run this in 3 color decks. Please stop it. Let me explain. If this doesn't fix your mana, what's the point? There are better cards to run that'll fix your mana, okay? If you're... The reason it doesn't fix your mana is because you play a green and you get a green, okay? And if your commander is like green, blue, white, that doesn't help you cast your commander. It's just sitting there. Now, if it's got generic mana in your commander cost, then technically it does. But run this after the cards that tap for not just green. Number 14, Reanimate. This is a 1 black for sorcery. Put target creature card from a graveyard into the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its mana value. This is great. This is fantastic. This is either you're self-milling yourself and you're going to go grab a card and just win the game because it's gross. Or you're milling everyone else and you steal their best thing. Or, I mean, like, you just want to be able to steal something that you kill. Oh, there's a really cool creature that my opponent ran. I'm just going to reanimate it. It's used a lot in self-mill decks or in milling your opponent decks because it's just a great steal their best card. But even generically, like... Nah, okay, here's the thing. I don't like this card generically. I think this card's bad generically. I would never just toss it in my deck for fun, okay? I would only run it if I am a graveyard deck myself or if I am a mill deck. Then I'm putting it in my deck because it's great in that regard. If I can mill my opponent out or mill my opponent and steal their best creature, I'll do so. And that's what I like about Reanimate. That's why it's there. It's very useful in mill decks, and there's a lot of self-mill decks where like you just want to put something good there. Also, a lot of CEDH decks run this specifically just to get Razakath out and win from there. So that's the reason why it's at 14. 13, you got Mystic Remora. This is 1 blue for an enchantment with cumulative upkeep 1. Okay, so at the beginning of your upkeep, you put an age counter on this permanent. Then sacrifice it unless you pay it its upkeep cost for each age counter on it, which means after you play it, the following turn, you have to pay 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, like that, okay? Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 4. So this isn't for every card, but they're not going to pay it, dude. It's 4 mana. I've never seen someone pay for Mystic Remora, okay? I haven't, okay? And, yeah, here's the thing about Mystic Remora. It's fantastic. It's a great card. You just got to play it at the right time. Let me explain. Turn 1 Mystic Remora is fantastic. And high power and CDH. It's crap casually. No point. Don't do that. Casually, you play this like turn 4 or 5. Everyone's ready to cast a bunch of spells. They're getting at it. We got this. We're going to do stuff. Your turn, Mystic Remora. Well, I was going to cast 3 spells on my turn. Now I was going to draw 3 cards for doing it, so... Man, I was going to cast at least 2. I'm a creature deck. I don't care about this card. Okay, cool. You don't get it out of that guy. But 2 out of the 3 isn't bad. So either it stops them from playing the game, or they just let you draw cards. And since it's turn 4 or 5, you can keep it around for a while, guys. Mystic Remora is really good casually, just not for the same reason it is competitively. Competitively, turn 1 play, fantastic. Or turn 2 play. Casually, turn 4 or 5 play. That's when Mystic Remora is great for you. It just refills your hand, and you feel so good. If you remember that, it can go in any blue deck. I forget the number we're on. This number. I'll find out. I marked a number so I won't forget anymore. Vampiric Tutor. This is 1 black for an instant. Search your library for a card, then shuffle and put that card on top. You lose 2 life. Wow, this is only number 12. Doesn't even make top 10. What's so bad about this card? Nothing. Nothing's bad about this card. Everything's good about this card. I mean, I guess technically someone could mill it. The card you tutor, because you put it on top. But there's nothing bad about this card. It's just that not a lot of people like to play tutors. That's it. I guess it's technically also on the game changer list, so even though it is a tutor, which they frown upon, they said this is even worse. Because it grabs anything for 1 mana, and yeah, like this. This just says, hey, that 1 card combo with your commander, now you have 2 copies of it in your deck. In a singleton format. I don't like running tutors. Anyone who's watched my content should know this. I feel icky doing so. I feel like going to grab that 1 card to just make my deck work. Like, that kind of beats the fun or the purpose of my commander deck. And I get some people tutor specifically for cards that just make their deck function. But, like, maybe the deck shouldn't exist at that point. I'm sorry, okay? Wait a few years for us to get the cards. Build it then. Or just find ways to draw a bunch of cards in your deck. It's just... Maybe that's not my place to say, but it's my opinion. I honestly I don't like tutors casually. I like this competitively. And yeah, sure, like casually you could just say, well, I don't run combos. This is just to go grab a good card to get me back in the game. In that case, I'm fine, you know, but like, it's still like, they say it's a game changer, and I'm like, yeah, that's fair, because like, it does give you, let you go grab any game changer in your deck. So, like, you can go grab a board wipe and just go, hey, cool, I got out of that predicament. This is just get out of your predicament card. Needed a card draw engine, boom, you got it. Needed a removal, boom, you got it. Needed board wipe, boom, you got it. Yeah, so. It's a good card, though, and that's a reason it's number 12. Okay, number 11. Esper Sentinel. This card's great, and it's not a game changer. I like that. I stopped trying to put this in my decks because I thought enough people hated it, but if it's not a game changer, I'm going to start putting it in more decks. Esper Sentinel is 1 white for a 1/1 artifact creature human soldier. When an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless that player pays X, where X is Esper Sentinel's power. Now, I think this card is really fun to play in decks where you can get it bigger. If you can put swords on it, giving it protection and +3/+3, no one's going to pay the 4. That's too much mana. So you're going to be drawing a card. It doesn't hurt non-artifact decks, so it's like fish, but on legs and for white. And it's a really good draw engine. I mean, notoriously, you end up getting at least 1 draw per rotation, if not 2 to 3, okay? So you're getting 1 to 3 draws, and that already pays. The 1 draw pays for itself, and the second draw means it's worth running, okay? I think any white deck should run this card, and that's where it becomes problematic. If you're in white, you should just run Esper Sentinel. It's a great way to draw. Just like if you're in blue, you should be running Mystic Remora. And the library. Rhystic Study. But I hate generically saying you should put a card in every deck, and that's why I think it should be in the Game Changers list. I like running this in decks, like I said, in decks that either need an artifact creature, or just like an artifact or creature for like specific reasons. In human decks, in soldier decks, and in any deck that can buff him. That's where I like it. Otherwise, I get it. You need draw engines to make Commander work, And so I'm not mad at you running it just in any generic deck where it could be. But I don't like to. I don't like running generic decks. That's just me, though. A lot of my decks end up at, like, level 2 or 3. Usually 2, because I like making my decks unique. And they're just outlines. You can make them better if you want to. But let's get to the top 10, guys. Number 10 is Wayfarer's Bauble. Yeah. This card's good. Not even going to doubt you guys. This card is fantastic. Wayfarer's Bauble should be in any deck, honestly, casually. This is 1 generic for an artifact. Pay 2, tap it, sacrifice Wayfarer's Bauble, search your library for a basic land card, put that card on the battlefield, tapped. Then, shuffle. This is a turn 1 into turn 2 play. You played Wayfarer's Bauble turn 1, land, Wayfarer's Bauble. Turn 2, land, tap the 2 land, sacrifice the Bauble, go grab a 3rd land. Turn 4 or turn 3, play a land. Now you're on 1 turn ahead. So this turns your turn 3 into a turn 4 turn, which isn't bad. It's good. It's a great way to fix your mana. It's a great way to just kind of get somewhere. It's a really good card. And also it's a 1-drop artifact, so any artifact decks just kind of like it does stuff for you. Yeah. Next, Llanowar Elves. Ooh, another 1 green for a 1/1 creature elf druid. Tap, add 1 green. Why is this card so much higher? I don't know, guys. Magic's weird. People like Llanowar Elves over elf druid, like, or Elvish Mystic. They both do the same thing. For all intents and purposes, they should both just be here, and I should talk to you about like a 21st card, but I won't. Because I don't want to. Yeah, it does the same thing as the last one, but he's got a sword in the picture. So instead of a mage, he's just a sword guy, but he's still an elf druid because he still produces mana. Yeah. Same thing I said about the last one. Let's continue. Brainstorm. I hate this card. Let's talk about it. 1 1 blue for an instant. Draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. Cool, this card fixes your hand. Yeah, you draw 3 cards. So, turn 1. Got 7 cards in hand. Brainstorm. Draw 3. Okay? So you go from 7. You play Brainstorm. Draw 3. Now you're at 9 cards. Ooh, now put 2 cards away. You're back at 7. It's a cantrip with a lot of choice. But you put the 2 worst cards back up on the deck. This card's only good if you're running fetch lands. Only played if you have a fetch land to crack, because then you don't draw into the 2 bad cards. I don't play fetch lands. I don't like fetch lands. I think they prolong the game, and they're just not fun to play. I actively just don't use them, okay? This is probably not the right choice, but because I don't like fetch lands, I don't like Brainstorm. Also, because you're probably only running 1 fetch land in a 2-color deck, don't run Brainstorm in a 2-color deck. Now, in a 3-color deck, maybe. And yes, I do run, like, in 3+ color decks, I'm running, like, Evolving Violets and Terramorphic Expanse, but that's only 2 cards. Okay? I dislike Brainstorm, and I dislike cantrips in Commander. Unless you're running, like, those types of things. That does those types of things. But yeah, that's Brainstorm. Coming up next is at number 9 is an offer you can't refuse. So this is 1 blue for an instant. Counter target non-creature spell. Its controller creates 2 treasure tokens. Yeah, this is just, it's a counter spell, okay? You can't stop creatures, but you can stop a lot of other stuff. So again, casually, I look at this as a blue's way as just protecting their field. This stops board wipes that would take you out of the game. This stops interaction with your commander. It also protects you from winning and stops your opponent from winning. So there's a lot of the things that this card can do. 1-drop counter spells are really good, and all you're giving is 2 treasures. Now, don't willy-nilly do this. Putting someone 2 turns ahead mana-wise isn't smart. Using this to counter your own thing to get yourself 1 mana ahead, or I guess 2 mana ahead if done like particularly like you use it and you don't use those mana the next turn you're 2. I have seen that happen. I've also seen it in token decks where the 2 treasures become like 4 or 6 treasures. Kind of cool in my opinion, but like, yeah, I would not suggest doing that normally. I would use this really as just a way to just protect yourself from dangerous situations. Next is Dark Ritual at number 8. And yeah, okay, Dark Ritual is good. This is 1 black for an instant. Add 3 black to your mana pool. What does this do? This puts you 2 turns ahead. So if your commander costs 3 black, you can, or a black and 2 generic, you can just turn 1 swamp, tap it, Dark Ritual, get my commander out. Which you could have gotten out turn 3. So that's 2 turns ahead. So this just allows you to get your commander out 2 turns ahead. And that's why it's here, okay? It puts you 2 turns ahead, and getting 2 turns ahead with anything is really good. Getting a black market on turn 1 is great. Getting a Dark Ritual, not Dark Ritual, I'm spacing out on the one that just draws you a card each turn on turn 1 is great. Getting anything like a turn 3 play on turn 1 is really good, especially your commander. So Dark Ritual is here. It gets you ahead 2 turns, and it's just generically really good in that regard. Number 7 is Skull Clamp. Now this is a good card, okay? Skull Clamp is 1 generic for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/-1, and when equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. Equip 1 generic. This doesn't go in every deck, okay? It doesn't. You could put this in, if you put this in like a deck that's not going to be able to abuse it, all this does is like, you put it on your commander, so if someone kills it, you get to draw 2 cards. It's okay. But this is a 1-card engine for any commander that makes X1 creature tokens. So any commander that's making tokens, this turns that into an engine where you can just pay 1, equip it to the token, and boom, you're drawing some cards. Very useful. This is also part of a really interesting black deck mana engine that I like, or draw engine that I like, which is running a lot of those cards in black where when this creature dies you draw, or there's a lot of cheap 1 to 2 drop creature, 1 to 3 drop creatures in black that can recur themselves either to your hand or on the field, and they're like X1. So Skull Clamp draws you 2 cards off of that, and that alone wouldn't be good enough. But there's also a lot of like black sorceries and instances where you sacrifice a creature to draw 2 cards. So that kind of builds this like combo, which is really good in black decks casually. And Skull Clamp kind of fits into that zone. So any deck where you're making a lot of tokens, Skull Clamp's good, and those types of decks where you can abuse it just really gives you a lot of good draw. But I wouldn't generically put it in a deck. Just a really good engine piece. Number 6 is Birds to Paradise. Birds of Paradise. This is the best mana dork, hands down. 1 green for a creature bird, 0/1 with flying, tap, add 1 mana of any color. So not only does this tap for any color, so it fixes the mana color, your mana color fixing, so you can get the color you need. So it's not green for green, it's green for whatever. It's also flyer, which means any deck that runs swords or other really good equipments or enchantments that trigger off hitting your opponent, birds helps. Anything that buffs birds can hit them. So having that flying is very useful because you can either use it to block their flying stuff or just to hit them later on in the game. So it really, like, birds is running double duty here in a lot of interesting ways, okay? Next is, sitting at number 5, is Path to Exile. This is 1 white for an instant. Exile target creature. Its controller may search their library for basic land card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped and shuffled. This is a fantastic single target removal. Get rid of any problematic creature or someone's commander. Sure, they get a basic land. So, like, if you hit their commander, they can just get their commander out next turn if they have a land in hand. But this does just remove a problematic card. And if it's not their commander, it's exiled. So you normally don't have to worry about it coming back. This hurts any graveyard deck. They're like, oh, we can just recur our stuff. No, you're not. You're not going to recur that. Anything that has Indestructible, don't care. This is why Indestructible isn't as good as Hexproof and Commander, in my opinion, because any white deck worth their salt is running Path to Exile. Along with the follow-up, Swords to Plowshare. Okay, Swords to Plowshare is one white for an instant exile target creature. Its controller gains life to its power. Giving someone life is just worse than giving someone, it's worse for them than giving them a land. It's better for you to give them life than to give them a land. So it's just better. They're just 4 and 5. They're great. Fantastic cards. If you're in white, you should be running them. They're just probably the primo removal spells. Guess that was number 2. I got my numbers mixed up. I'm not perfect, guys. Number 1 is Sol Ring. I'm not gonna talk about it. I'll read it. Sol Ring, 1 generic for an artifact. Tap, add 2 colorless mana. Okay, there you go. That's what it is, guys. That's what Sol Ring is. It's Sol Ring. What do you want me to talk about? Okay, it's the best card in Commander. There's no downside to it. 1 generic mana for 2 colorless mana. No downside. Put it in your deck. I don't run it in every deck, and by that I mean, I guess the one thing I will say about it is when my commanders don't cost generic mana, I don't always put Sol Ring in it. Casually speaking. I just don't find it as useful. If it's not helping me get my commander out. But it's not the right choice. It's just my choice, so. Yes, Sol Ring, guys. It's good. Was anyone expecting anything else? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.